If I don't mean any disrespect, but you ought to be ashamed of that. How can you possibly be for public safety if you hate our immigration laws so much that you would let a convicted murderer back on the street? Do you really hate immigration laws that much?
Senator John Kennedy set the trap from the very first question. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are breaking down this exchange between Representative Kennedy and Sheriff Clarence Burkhead, and let me tell you, this is a masterclass in how to handle a witness who thinks he's smarter than the committee. Right out of the gate, watch what Burkhead does. Kennedy asks him if he believes vetting people at the border is racist. Burkhead says, "No, I've never said that. I believe secure borders are important." Sounds reasonable, right? That's the act. He's playing the moderate. But Kennedy didn't come to play. He waited. He let Burkhead sit there and claim he believes in cooperating with federal authorities. Then, and this is the part you have to appreciate, Kennedy pulls out the 2018 interview. Now pay attention, because this is where the mask comes off.
You believe that vetting people at the border is racist, do you not?
No, I've never said that. I believe that having secure borders is important, and we have processes that allow individuals to come into the country the right way, absolutely.
You believe that people should be able to violate federal immigration laws without consequences, don't you?
No, sir, I do not. I believe that anyone who violates federal or state law needs to be held accountable, and there need to be consequences.
You don't believe in cooperating with ICE, do you?
I believe in cooperating with federal authorities, as I do. A number of federal agencies I cooperate with, and I certainly would cooperate with ICE if they would cooperate with me.
Okay. You were elected in 2018, Sheriff, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. On April 18, 2018, you gave an interview with a media organization called Indie Week. Do you remember that?
I'm familiar with the paper, yes.
Okay. Here's what you said. I'm quoting you, your words, not mine. I disagree with the incumbent sheriffs, that's the guy you beat, with the incumbent sheriff's cooperation with ICE. I will make a clear and uncompromising commitment to not cooperate with ICE. As sheriff, I will not honor ICE detainers, and we will not participate in ICE roundups, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In April of last year, you spoke to a group of ICE employees. Do you remember that?
Not particularly, no.
Okay, well, there was an article in a media organization, a media entity called the Assembly. Are you familiar with them? Do you remember?
I've heard of the Assembly, yes, sir.
Yeah, do you remember giving them an interview?
I give several interviews.
Sure. Yeah.
I actually don't remember that particular one, but I'm...
Okay. Well, here's what you said in the interview, apparently on the record. These ICE employees that you spoke to, you were referencing them, and you said, quote, they, these ICE officials, asked me, so Sheriff, if someone is about to be released from your jail and the detainer is about to expire, you will call us and let us know? What was my answer, you said? No, because that's not what the law says. No, I will not call ICE, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And, sir, Senator, that was before the new law, which is now House Bill 318, which requires me to make that second phone call.
Right. Yeah.
Prior to that, it was not state law, which I follow and all my deputies follow.
sure.
And so now we do make that second phone call. But ICE agents are notified whenever someone is entered into processed into my jail.
Do you need some water? Because I think your pants are on fire.
Burkhead literally said, quote, "I will make a clear and uncompromising commitment to not cooperate with ICE. I will not honor ICE detainers, and we will not participate in ICE roundups." And what does Burkhead say when Kennedy reads his own words? "Yes, sir." That's it. No explanation, no denial, just yes. So which is it, Sheriff? Do you cooperate with federal authorities, or did you run for office on a promise to defy them? Because it cannot be both. Kennedy didn't even have to raise his voice. He just let the man's own words hang in the air like a confession. But the knockout punch, and I mean the knockout, comes at the end. Kennedy brings up Carlos Martinez. Now I want you to let this sink in. This is a guy who was in the country illegally. He was convicted of manslaughter in Mexico. He was in a street gang. He gets arrested in Burkhead's jurisdiction for assaulting a woman, domestic violence. So ICE does what they're supposed to do. They place a detainer. They say, "Hey, Sheriff, hold this guy so we can come get him and deport him before he hurts someone else." And Burkhead said no. He released him. Now watch Burkhead's excuse.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Carlos Heriberto Mendoza Martinez?
Not right off, sir, no.
Okay. Sheriff, you should. He was in our country illegally from Mexico. He was in a street gang. Back in Mexico, he was convicted of manslaughter. And he was in your jail. And because in 2021 and 2024, Mr. Martinez was arrested for assaulting a woman and domestic violence. And ICE placed a detainer on this guy because he was in our country illegally. And he was a criminal. And he was in your jail. And you wouldn't honor that detainer, would you?
I can't say that I did not honor the detainer.
I can.
I can say what I did honor was the conditions of the release that were issued by a judge. And so therefore, and once again, ICE was notified that they could come
Do
pick
you
up
really
this individual.
believe in public safety?
Yes, sir, I do.
You would allow someone in our country, illegally, convicted of manslaughter, convicted of domestic violence, in your jail. ICE says, please hold him when his time is up. We want to get this criminal out of our country. And you said no.
ICE was notified that they could come pick up the individual, and for some reason they did not. And the judge issued the conditions of release. I am a custodian. I do not determine who is released or held. I follow the court's order.
Sheriff, I don't mean any disrespect, but you ought to be ashamed of that. How can you possibly be for public safety if you hate our immigration laws so much that you would let a convicted murderer back on the street? Do you really hate immigration laws that much?
Senator, it's not a matter of that I hate immigration law.
You could have fooled me, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service.
He says, "I follow the court's order. I'm a custodian. I don't determine who gets released." That is a dodge, and it's a weak one, because here's what he leaves out. ICE detainers are not optional when you claim to care about public safety. He could have held him. He chose not to. And then he has the audacity to sit there and say he believes people who break the law should be held accountable, while he personally facilitated the release of a convicted murderer back onto the street. Kennedy's closing line is what you're going to see clipped all over this platform for the next week. How can you possibly be for public safety if you hate our immigration laws so much that you would let a convicted murderer back on the street? Do you really hate immigration laws that much? Burkhead starts mumbling something about, "It's not that I hate immigration law," and Kennedy just cuts him off. "You could have fooled me, Sheriff." That's it. That's the video. This is what happens when you let ideology override your oath. Burkhead made a promise to activists in 2018 that he would defy ICE, and he stuck to it even when it meant letting a violent gang member walk. Kennedy didn't just win this exchange, he exposed the entire sanctuary philosophy for what it is. It's not about compassion, it's about contempt for the law, and sometimes it gets people hurt. If you want to know why voters are fed up with politicians who talk out of both sides of their mouth, just watch Sheriff Burkhead try to explain why his own words don't mean what they say. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments. Was Kennedy right to call him out? Or do you think Burkhead had a point about following court orders? Sound off below. I'll see you in the next one.